If you're planning a trip to Seville, then this travel guide will cover the practical information and tips you need to have an amazing city break. Let's start with when to go. While you will have a great time in Seville no matter when you visit, there are some things to consider when booking your trip. For many, the best times to visit are from March to May. Typically the temperatures will be very comfortable, although we all know with weather that there are never any guarantees. These excellent weather conditions do of course mean that this is peak season, so things will be busier. While you may want to avoid the stifling summer, like spring, autumn can be a great time to visit as you'll dodge the intense heat of July and August, although rainfall levels do increase in October. The winter months could be a good option as temperatures are relatively mild and crowds will be lower, however, daylight hours will be shorter. If you do want to visit for the lovely spring temperatures and long daylight hours, be aware that two extremely popular events are held at this time of year, Semana Santa and the April Fair. Semana Santa takes place the week running up to Easter weekend, with the April Fair taking place 2 weeks after that. While either could be incredible to experience, I would suggest researching them further, and if you aren't interested in these events, then avoid those dates as things will be busier and accommodation more expensive. After visiting in May ourselves, I would recommend a late spring visit for one extra reason that we were not anticipating. As if Seville wasn't already picturesque enough, after arriving we realised the city was filled with these absolutely beautiful trees covered in purple flowers. They seem to be dotted around everywhere, in the parks, the gardens, the plazas, even lining the busy roads. After googling them, we found out that these trees are called jacarandas and they burst with colour in May and then continue to bloom for a few weeks. Number 2 is how long to stay. I would recommend visiting Seville for at least 3 full days. This will give you enough time to see the main sites plus a couple of lesser visited attractions without having to rush. If you're visiting in the height of summer, then because of the heat you may want to take things at a slower pace than you normally would for a city break, so do bear that in mind when planning your trip. We do have another video walking you through a suggested 3-day itinerary for Seville, which I will link at the end of this video. You have a number of options for where to stay in Seville. First, there is Santa Cruz and the centre. These areas are best for first visits or shorter stays. Here you will be conveniently located for visiting the main sites, and there's lots of cafes, tapas bars, shops and a wide range of accommodation. The Santa Cruz area is absolutely beautiful, however as it is popular with tourists it could be a little loud, which may bother you if you have a room facing the streets. Once the city's port, El Arenal is also a good option for first-time visitors or short stays. This area is very pretty, it's perfect for riverside walks and there's plenty of restaurants, and is conveniently located close to many of Seville's attractions. You could stay in the Triana neighbourhood, which is where we stayed. It has more of a chilled local vibe and is certainly less touristy. Here there are some good budget options for accommodation and food. However, depending on where in the neighbourhood you stay, it could still be loud until late, so make sure you check the accommodation reviews. It is also further away from many of the main sites. We did find ourselves needing to pop back to the room on a couple of occasions and then wishing we were staying a little closer to the centre, although overall we did really enjoy staying in Triana. Around the Alameda area is relaxed and great for younger travellers or people who want to experience the nightlife. It's budget friendly with laid-back cafes and art spaces and bars. However, like Triana, this area is further from the main attractions than the likes of Santa Cruz, however you can still walk. What sites should you prioritise? While I would recommend a 3 or 4 day visit, if you do only have 1 day, I would prioritise the following activities. Visit the Royal Alcazar, which is the oldest active palace in Europe. If you only paid to go inside one attraction in Seville, the Royal Alcazar should be it. Explore the colourful Santa Cruz neighbourhood, which is the old Jewish quarter of Seville. Visit the gorgeous Parc de Maria Luisa, where you can stroll under the beautiful shady trees and spend some time at the famous Plaza de España. And last but definitely not least, go inside the Grand Cathedral and climb up the Moorish Bell Tower. Getting there and around. If you're travelling by plane, then the cheapest way to get to and from Seville International Airport is by bus. The bus stop at the airport is located straight outside the main terminal and takes around 30 minutes to reach the city centre. The bus stops at several locations in the city between Santa Justa train station and Plaza de Armas bus station, which is where the bus terminates. It costs €4 one way and you can buy your ticket on the bus. Alternatively, you can take a taxi to the centre for €20 to €30 depending on exactly where you're going and the time of day. For getting around, the best way to explore Seville is on foot. In the central area, the majority of the sites are all reasonably close together, plus walking the beautiful streets is part of the fun. However, if you do visit in the summer months, then I would recommend staying more central to minimise walking in the heat. Seville is also very bike-friendly and there are many scooters or self-service bikes for hire. Pick up and return your bike at any of a large number of stations around the city. Tips for visiting the Royal Alcazar. Tour groups tend to visit the Royal Alcazar in the late morning or early afternoon, so try to visit first thing or late afternoon to avoid peak hours. For good reason, this is a really popular attraction, so I would recommend booking your tickets online in advance, although if you're visiting outside of peak hours then you might be okay to buy on the day. However, if you know you're going to visit for sure, then I think it's best to play it safe and book online before you go, plus you will avoid the queue for the ticket office. Once inside the Alcazar, you can stay for as long as you like. On average, people spend around 1.5 to 2 hours there, although we were there for around 3 hours. Allocate longer for your visit if you opt for the additional tour of the upper royal rooms. This add-on was unavailable for our visit, so the decision was made for us, although reviews are mixed as to whether or not it's actually worth it. When you book your ticket, keep hold of it as it gets you into additional attractions in Seville, such as the Ceramic Museum and the Antiquarium. When asked, we were told that these tickets were still valid the next day, so you don't have to try and cram these attractions into the same day as your visit to the Royal Alcazar. Tips for visiting Las Setas. Las Setas is a large wooden mushroom-shaped structure that offers some good views of the city. If you do visit, then be aware that there are several different ticket options. General access to the viewing platform during the day is €5, which then goes up to €8 if you visit from half an hour before sunset. Once the sun has gone down, then the wooden walkways are transformed with an ambient sound and light show. The cost of a night ticket goes up to €10. As we visited partway through the sunset window, then we were charged for a night ticket, but this did mean that we got to experience both the sunset and the light show, which we were very happy with. You can either purchase your ticket online in advance or wait and buy them at the entrance to Las Setas, either from a ticket machine or over the counter. Know when purchasing your ticket that they also offer a more expensive ticket that includes an immersive film about the city, so be aware that this is an optional extra. We didn't know this, and when we bought our ticket over the counter they did charge us for this extra without asking, as we didn't specify that we only wanted to visit the viewing platform. So learn from our mistakes. Number 8 is tips for visiting Seville Cathedral. When you buy your cathedral tickets, you'll see that you can purchase a combination ticket for the cathedral, the bell tower, and the Church of the Divine Saviour. If you don't book your ticket in advance, then I would suggest buying it from the Church of the Divine Saviour rather than the cathedral, as the queue will be shorter. You could also book tickets for a cathedral rooftop tour, which was a highlight of our visit to Seville. There's only a limited number of small group tours per day, so if you would like to do a rooftop tour, then I would recommend booking in advance. You may have to be flexible about when you fit the tour into your itinerary, as it will only be available at a few set times throughout the day. Tours run in different languages, so that's another reason to book ahead so that you can book a tour in a language you are fluent in. However, reviews from people unable to book on a tour in their own language who then booked the Spanish one said it was still worth it to access the cathedral rooftops even without understanding the tour guide. Finally, when visiting the Seville Cathedral, be aware that there is a dress code, so remember to bring something to cover your shoulders. Number 9 is bring headphones. At a couple of attractions like Palacio de las Duenas and Casa de Pilatos, your entrance includes an audio guide that you can access using your phone. I would therefore recommend bringing a pair of headphones with you in case you want to listen to the guide. What if you visit on a Sunday? If your visit falls on a Sunday, you may be worried that things could be closed. We found that with the exception of large supermarkets, many shops were indeed shut, but most attractions were open. Check opening hours of attractions, as some may have limited hours on a Sunday or even Monday, but don't worry if your trip falls on a Sunday, there will still be plenty to do. Some restaurants were closed or had reduced hours on Sunday or Monday, but we found that many were operating as normal. Just check opening hours online in advance if there is somewhere in particular that you would like to dine. Despite many shops being closed on a Sunday, we did find a few markets had popped up, which was a great bonus of being in Seville on a Sunday. We stumbled across a couple of flea markets, one on the banks of the river of the Triana neighbourhood where we were staying, and another in a beautiful circular courtyard near the Cathedral. If you're an arts lover visiting Seville on a Sunday, then head towards the Museum of Fine Art, where you'll find artists display their work outside the museum. These aren't the only markets held in Seville, but these are the ones that we visited on a Sunday. For number 11, let's talk about food. Depending on where you're from, lunchtime might be later than you're used to. It's typically from 2 p.m. until 4 p.m, and dinner starts at around 9 p.m, although we found that many restaurants would start to open around 1 to 2 hours before this. If you do want to eat outside of these hours, then you will still be able to find some places that will give you cold tapas while the kitchen is closed, but your choice will be limited. Supermarkets will remain open, so you can always grab something to tide you over. On your trip to Seville, you're surely going to want to try the delicious local dishes like I've been showing you during this food segment, and what a better way to do that than with tapas. By sharing small plates of food, you'll get to try more different dishes, and you can always order your favourites again. It also means that you can be more adventurous and try something you're unsure of, because if you don't like it, then hey, it's not your entire meal. How many plates per person will vary, of course, depending on your appetite and how filling each dish is. For example, patatas bravas is particularly filling, but typically we would find 3 or 4 dishes would suit the two of us. While in some parts of Spain you may get tapa free with drink, in Seville you will pay. We found dishes were usually around 3 or 4 euros. Number 12 is the drinking water. It is perfectly safe to drink the tap water in Seville. Not only that, but there are free water fountains in many squares and public spaces, which is perfect given how hot Seville can get and how much walking you'll probably end up doing. Unfortunately, public toilets are not something you'll find easily in Seville. The only ones we managed to find on our trip were paid public toilets just opposite Plaza de España, plus some free toilets in Parque de Maria Luisa. While there may be others dotted around, in our experience you're best to take advantage of the facilities when you're at a tourist attraction or at a bar or restaurant. Number 14. Tipping at restaurants in Seville is not compulsory, however it is certainly appreciated. We found that it was commonly suggested that you leave around 10% of a bill if the service was good. For bars or cafes, we would typically round up or leave some change. Number 15. Should you take cash or card? Card will be accepted in most places you go, with perhaps the exception of some very small shops, paying on the bus, or if you want to use those toilets we mentioned by Plaza de España. There may also be a minimum spend of a few euros if you're paying on card in some small shops. I would therefore recommend planning to mainly use your card, ideally one that does not charge transaction fees when using it abroad, but then I would also take a small amount of cash with you. Even though you won't often need cash, it's still always good to have some with you just in case you have any unexpected issues using your card. Number 16 is bug spray. Make sure you apply bug spray, especially if you're visiting in the warmer months or you're spending time near the river. We didn't wear any for the first couple of days and soon really regretted it. Number 17. Plugs in Seville are the same as the majority of Europe, consisting of 2 parallel pins, so if you're travelling from the UK or outside of Europe, then make sure you bring a travel adapter with you. Number 18. Walking around Seville, you'll see the streets are lined with fragrant orange trees. However, although they may look tempting, don't eat the oranges. They're actually very bitter, so good for making marmalade, but not so good for a morning snack. Also, keep your eyes peeled for oranges on the floor, because if you're clumsy like me, then you might end up stepping on one and getting sticky rotten orange all up your leg. Number 19 is, will you be okay if you don't speak Spanish? In our experience, yes, you will be fine. We found at tourist sites and restaurants that there would usually be somebody there who could speak English. There were a couple of occasions where we needed the help of Google Translate, but overall getting by without speaking Spanish was absolutely fine. That being said, we do always like to try and learn a few key phrases before we go, and then even if our pronunciation is absolutely terrible, we will have at least tried. It's also useful to memorise the names of food items you know you want to try so you can easily identify them on the menu. Number 20. Seville's location and excellent train connections make it a good base for easily exploring other popular destinations in Andalusia. The main train station in Seville is Santa Justa. You can book your ticket online in advance directly through the Renfe website or through ticket retailers like Trainline. Tickets could be released up to 3 months in advance, but if you don't see trains for your route, then keep checking back. When you book, you may have the choice of either one of the high-speed trains or one of the regional MD trains, which are slower but also cheaper. If you want a half-day trip out of the city but you don't want to go that far afield, then you should visit the Roman ruins of Italica. Here you can walk through the excavated remains of the old Roman city and explore the amphitheatre where gladiators would battle in front of 25,000 spectators. In warmer months, go as early as you can because the site is very exposed, so not many places to hide from the sun. I would also suggest starting with the ruined city and then moving on to the amphitheatre, as there is some shade in the tunnels. Make sure you bring plenty of water with you too. If you do want to visit Italica, then it's an easy 30-minute bus ride from the Plaza de Armas bus station in Seville. There's no need to book a ticket in advance for either the ruins or the bus. If you have visited Seville and you have any other tips of your own, then please do share them in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, I hope this video was helpful.